A very good morning to all of you. I am now welcoming you all on behalf of Dubai Renewable Energy Business Group to the Navigating the Energy Storage Landscape Market Insights and Predictions webinar. Before we proceed further, I would like to thank our panel members for their immense support to organize this event. Their commitment to promoting sustainable energy solutions is truly commendable. May I now invite Mr. Lokesh Kumar Verma, Chairman, DREPG, and Founder and MD, Power and Sun, for the opening remarks. Over to you, sir.
Thanks, Ahla, and thanks to Solar Quarter for organizing the nice event. Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and to the benefit of our Southeastern members, very good say afternoon and good morning both. We have come again within a month's time with a new subject, navigating the energy storage landscape in Middle East market insights and prediction. It's a very interesting subject. The renewable energy trend is from the off-grid is moving towards a hybrid, and there are various needs in the new markets and in the new scenarios everyone is feeling and facing, and that's how the energy storage is growing year on year. I think with the CAGR, the Bloomberg report, I remember some time back they published it, and till 2030 they are expecting the industry to grow globally, industry to grow more than 30% year on year growth. With this type of growth, where most of the other industries are either growing less than 10% or they are stagnant, this type of growth year on year is actually remarkable. We need to understand that what are the fundamentals of this growth, why and how sustainable it is, in the coming times. And that's where this webinar is going to play a vital role in terms of sharing the industry insights, in terms of sharing the knowledge which the esteemed panelists have. Along with them, I think we have people from inverters, PV modules, energy, best of the engineering companies. So it's a group of almost all the aspects of industry, right from manufacturing and technology to the installation it takes place. We might spend close to around 1 hour's time, plus minus 15 to 20 minutes on your question answer sessions. And then if you can keep your questions on a text, as well as you can answer, you can raise your hands, and our facilitators and the moderator will help you to get the answers of your questions. This is about the structuring of the webinar. I think the panelists will introduce themselves again after the session. But let's spend 2 minutes on the landscape of energy storage in a Middle East, that what is the necessity for us to pick up this subject, share our views, with all of you. When we talk about a landscape, there are a couple of major factors which comes in our mind. One is their integration into a renewable, energy. So batteries, flywheels, we all know for many years. They are now becoming into the energy storage systems and energy storage, actually management. How it is very strongly getting integrated with the renewable energy, landscape. That's a one big area which is the major driver of the industry for its growth as well as other aspects. Second is the government policies, government supports, grid stability is also making a need felt for energy storage in this region, especially in Middle East, where the demand is peak in the night, but we have 8 hours or more than that as a sun available. So we got a sun abundance, but at the same point of time, the demand is at peak in the night. Then there are, since it is a storage, so it will come at a cost, and this initial costs are high. But how again this is becoming a viable to the industry, to the residences, and now even a large commercial projects are also coming. So there are various financing models as far as this landscape which I was talking about. So we will touch base on all those points. When we talk about a navigation, we also talk about how from a technology point of view, what is the need of the hybrid systems, because in my opinion in the coming days it's going to be the hybrid which will be driving it the most. There are also accelerated scenarios are on energy storage as a service. So energy as a service is taking prominence, but energy storage also as a service is becoming. So it means the land is given by someone else, the money is deployed by someone else, plant is built by someone else, engineering is done by someone else, and power is being sold by someone else to the different type of a consumer. So combination of all these situations in one place, it making the entire industry very interesting, and that's why you'll see that a lot of people uh, uh, are actually joining this, and that's why it is becoming a growth of 30-35%. Regionally, it may be even 100% in certain markets, but in global in general, this is what is we are expecting it. We also will be, I think, talking about a bit of a challenges on the industry because of its initial cost and how that is getting managed. It's an interesting subject again for all of us, and how residential to commercial and then to industrial and then going to the utility scale. So what are the scopes available? What is the trends currently in the market? I think this all is going to be discussed, and that's why I say it's a very interesting subject and interesting and knowledgeable panelists, and making the entire next 1.5 hour very useful for all of us. So I would not like to take much of your time. I think giving a mic back to Varun and for him to uh, navigating us through this session and through the industry as well. Thanks once again for inviting me as a keynote speaker and as one of the panelists. Thank you. Varun, to you.
Okay. Uh, so good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us from all around the Middle East and also around the world. So we have, I think, a very exciting hour in front of us. Just as we start, I think it's also important to recognize the role that DREBG today is playing in the Middle East. And today's webinar, I think it's brought to you by DREBG, and this is a group of highly innovative and technically sound companies who are working across the renewable energy space in not only the UAE but also now across the Middle East. And I think we come together once a month to discuss on some of the very interesting and niche developments, which is helping us shape the renewable energy landscape in the Middle East. Uh, for all of those who are already members, of DREBG, it's my pleasure to meet you again here. And for the others who've joined us, I think, and who would like to know more about DREBG and our membership options, please do get in touch with us, post any one of us here, post the webinar, and I'm sure you'll be having a lot of exciting knowledge as well as networking based discussions now and going forward as well. So with that, I think I'm honored to moderate this very eclectic panel. I think we have, as already mentioned by Varmaji, that the expertise is diverse. The topic is new and exciting. Energy storage is really, changing the dynamics of renewable energy from only, from an, I will say, an intermittent power source to a more stabilized and continual energy option, which is affecting large scale, distributed, and backup. All these different areas of energy are now can be brought under the renewable energy scope. And I think each of this is seeing a very different trajectory of development. A lot of different advancements are happening in the various business segment. uh, the technologies themselves, energy storage, are pretty vast, right from hydro, pumped hydro as a solution, to battery BESS options, and now also on the hydrogen side. So hydrogen as a energy storage solution. And we all know the rapid, decline in the costs that we have seen uh, in various options. I think Middle East will see a higher uptake in BSS and hydrogen, uh, uh, as the primary sources of energy storage. The costs have already come down almost by 10x. I think from $1,000 to around 135 uh, uh, sort of pricing, and this continue to decline. And the capacities of the technology is also, I think it's enhancing. So we have more energy density now being built into the solutions. So very excited to have the panelists here. I'll just go ask all of them to quickly introduce themselves. For all those who are meeting me for the first time, I'm Varun from First View. First View is a global media research and a consulting company. We are operating in around 42 countries today. And of course, Middle East is one of our primary focus areas as well. Next, I'll pass it on to Mr. Manoj Divakaran. So Manoj, if you could just quickly, run through with your brief intro, and then I'll go on to the other panelists as well.
Sure. Thank you, Varun. Good morning to everyone. I want to quickly introduce myself, Manoj Divakaran. I'm Managing Director of Imperial Energy and Services. We operate in the all aspects of solar energy, both solar photovoltaic and CSP, solar thermal solutions, and the applications of energy, which also touch upon an energy storage. So we work on deploying battery storage solutions. We're also implementing our first hydrogen production facility. So we briefly work on all aspects of energy storage, and I'd be very happy to share some of our experiences in this discussion. Thank you, Varun.
Excellent. Mayank, if you could just quickly introduce yourself for
Hello.
the audiences. Yeah.
Yes, good morning, and thank you for this opportunity to everyone. Uh, it has been a pleasure part of DREBG starting this year. So I representing Sun Group Power Systems, and the portfolio that Sun Group presents to the market is from PV inverters to energy storage systems to EV charging. And soon there will be hydrogen electrolyzers that will be coming to the market. So in this capacity and in this region, I represent as a sales and business development leader for PV storage and energy storage systems. So that's my introduction, carrying experience of 16 plus years in the field of transmission and distribution, EPC business, contracting, and now in renewable energy field.
Thank you, Vasim. Quick introduction from your side as
Good
well.
morning, good afternoon. Thank you, Varun, for giving it to me. My name is Wasim Haider. I'm bachelor's electrical, master's business administration with 17 years plus of working experience from power distribution domain. I'm also a certified energy auditor and a project management professional. So all these years, I've been trying to keep myself relevant. My whole experience comes from the United Arab Emirates, and I've seen the change. The landscape being driven and change in the power distribution space towards the renewable. So all this time, I've been trying to keep myself relevant. Currently, I'm associated with Longi Solar, and obviously Longi Solar is one of the best PV manufacturers, world-renowned PV module supplier. and I take care of the Middle Eastern region when it comes to business development activities. I also render services for my volunteering services to DRE and PMI UAE chapter. Again, in an effort to keep myself relevant to the landscape. So I'm happy that I'm on this webinar, called on this webinar today with Mr. Verma and Mr. Manoj and Mayank sharing the screen with me. Obviously, all of them are from the industry, and we keep on learning from these guys who are basically, and I consider them one of the driving factors in the landscape. Especially when it comes to Mr. Verma and Manoj, one of the driving factors of the UAE energy landscape. So looking forward to it as it unfolds, looking forward to sharing my thoughts further. Thank you, Varun.
Okay, great. So I think let's get on with some of the major application trends that each of one of us are seeing in the industry. So we'll start with maybe, and I'll bring Manoj in first. So what are the various applications that you are currently seeing in the energy storage in the UAE, and then maybe also in the Middle East market?
Okay. Thanks, Varun. I think over the last, I would say, couple of decades, we have seen an increasing penetration of renewable energy within the power mix or the energy mix across the various grids. So we have seen sources which are on-demand kind of sources, but a large amount of the renewable energy is contributed by solar, wind, etc., which are basically intermittent in nature. And as the amount of integration or penetration of these intermittent sources are happening, the need for grid stability, the need for grid stabilization, etc., is also increasing. The rate of decarbonization is also increasing, especially UAE has the net zero by 2050 strategy, Saudi has the Vision 2030 strategy. All of these are geared towards reducing the dependence on fossil fuels and increasing the amount of renewable energy integration into the grid. Along with that comes the absolute necessity to have energy storage going hand in hand to make sure that as the penetration of renewable energy and integration increases, the stability and other associated challenges are also taken care of. So today, because of that, you see a host of energy storage mechanisms in use, the most prominent being the battery energy storage, which is generally used across utility scale projects. It's also making a big impact in CNI projects, commercial and industrial scale, where the challenges are slightly different. The mobility sector, the transportation mobility sector, is another very important benefactor of this energy storage technologies. Then there's also the short-term storage and the long-term storage. Short-term storage is mainly dominated by the battery energy systems. The long-term storage is moving more towards hydrogen and various other technologies which are a little bit more under development. So today you see from transportation to energy storage requirements like backup for grid outages, for frequency stabilization, for peak shifting, for peak load management, shifting the load from the peaks to other times. As more and more of the time of day pricing and the uh, the better business models are getting implemented by the utilities, you will also start to see the relevance of energy storage will definitely increase in the overall power mix. The fact that the Middle East has a significant amount of sun hours, good sunlight right through the year, also makes the importance of solar energy and storage very relevant for our region. And I think you would slowly start to see this becoming more and more as the cost keeps falling, the efficiency, the round trip efficiencies of energy storage is improving, and the overall attraction for investors to finance these projects also is starting to improve because they are becoming more relevant for running businesses or trying out businesses which otherwise would not be possible. For example, like resorts in faraway locations which could be far away from the grid. And these are prime benefactors of having these microgrids, which can actually harness renewable energy and allow the operations to continue. So I do see increasing appetite for energy storage in the market, fueled by government policies as well as investment appetite, etc.
Yes, I think also we've seen a lot of activity in the large scale tenders. I think which are coming out in the energy storage space. So along with the CNI, I think the utility side of the stabilization uh, is also, I think, picking up. Any inputs or any views that you have on the tenders which are now we are seeing in the Middle East?
On the utility scale, yes, it's becoming necessary as the penetration in the market is approaching a higher percentage of the grid. I think most of the utility tenders that are happening not only in the Middle East, around the world, now have a certain component which are attributed to energy storage, because stabilizing the frequency before the big power plant is connected to the grid, it's becoming essential now.
Okay.
Neon is
Mr. Verma, I think you are also, have been quite active in the, entire energy storage supply chain and especially in the distributed markets. What any major application trends that you are seeing in terms of where you're seeing the demand, not just in the in the UAE, but also maybe from other countries such as the North African countries, or the other regions of the Middle East, and what trends are you seeing in some of these other markets?
Thanks for hello. Is it I'm audible?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Varun. So actually, demand, if we talk about, there are, I mean, I would like to put the entire demand into the two basic categories. One is the need-based demand on energy storage. Second is a green-based demand on, on energy storage. So need-based demand, actually, you don't have a choice. Where there is no power, we have a difficult countries in, in the Middle East, and then there are certain countries are in a disturbed stage right from 2014-15 onwards. So there's always been a demand from these countries, but the demand was mostly driven by the off-grid requirement. So there is a simple setup of inverter, and then there is a battery, and there was no solar in those initial days. And then later on, from 2015-16 onwards, the solar has started coming up, so it becomes a hybrid solutions. Then most of these regions or the country was also on generators on off-grid sites. So then it becomes a complex hybrid where generator, battery storage, solar, grid, all those combinations were used. From that time, from 2013-14, I think prior to that, I think the region was highly stable, and there was not much of a demand except the data centers. So data centers and UPS, uninterrupted power supplies, lifts. These are the places where the energy storage or batteries were used to be used earlier. Then it gets into the residential sector. Now I've started seeing from a last couple of years, the green based demand is also increasing a lot, especially for the grid stability, so especially for peak power actually requirements at different times, balancing those areas. And it is not from the Middle East, it is actually most of the African continent and here. And I'll say that this is not now only Africa and Middle East. There is another subject which is coming up as a energy independence. So energy independence is it's like a wave which is going from a developed countries to a developing countries. So in a developed countries, people, they don't want any interference in their power consumption pattern. So they said that, why should I pay a different prices? Why should I be dependent on the grid? It's my house, it's my power consumption and my usage. Same thing is happening into the sensitive industry. So it is now the need base is shrinking, and the green base and the other aspects are taking an important role. And I believe maybe a given a frame of time, I think the days are not far when each house will have its own energy storage system.
I think they're very interesting points, and given that the application areas, what are emerging are so vast, Mayank, what would be your inputs, based on how the storage solutions are evolving, to cater to such a varied need. On one side you have backup or mini grids and microgrids, and they need their own storage systems. And on the other hand, you have mega scale deployments which are needed for balancing out the entire grid. So what are the evolution that you're seeing in the on the technological landscape here?
Yeah, thanks, Varun. So very likely said that what are the dynamic changes that are coming up in the market in last couple of decades, especially focusing on stabilization, reliability, and also taking care of the peak demands, which as of today, the storage systems as a whole economy is very well placed, definitely led by the battery as of today, but it was previously catered by hydrogen storage and thermal storage in some isolated global places. Now, recently, there have been a lot of exposure of natural disasters on Middle East, Africa, and nearby states, and that has exposed to the stabilization requirement for the grid. And then grids are started looking at storage energy as a solution to all these requirements. Now, the technological advancements is more about the predictability, reliance on energy management systems, especially when the grids, and especially when we talk about Middle East, they are looking at interconnected grids. So a demand in one segment in one particular hour is not the same in the different country. And this is what is a dire need. And the storage systems are trying to focus on managing this demand by having capability to cater the peak shaving requirements, maintaining the resilience of the grid itself, especially when we are focusing a lot on digitalization of the grids. Energy management systems are capable and sophisticated to handle the new urbanization requirements, especially led by Saudi, UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, and even some of the microgrid requirements which are coming up in near future in nearby places like Red Sea development. So the technology is evolving towards more stability, more efficiency, as Mr. Manoj was also mentioning about round trip efficiency. But we are also not just looking at battery or any particular element that is being improving its efficiency. It's the whole segment which needs to evolve in providing an efficient system. For example, the cooling requirements for the systems, the thermal storage, either battery or non-battery, uh, the conditions which are required to be maintained at site, both pre and post development stage of any project of energy storage, and also interconnection between the grids which are required to be upgraded every now and then. But the new solutions are focusing that we can incorporate the old batteries with the new batteries, especially when I come from this particular background, that the system should be able to integrate old and new systems together whenever the replacement is required, and at the least cost possible. So investors, stakeholders, developers, they're all looking at more of a stability, risk-free profile of any energy or storage system, and more outcome from the elements that are being deployed in these storage systems.
Interesting. Wasim, I'll maybe bring you in here. So I think there is a huge area which is emerging, which is where the integration of solar and storage is playing an important role in providing an whether it's on a small scale or large scale, but more of a stabilized power output. Uh, what are some of the major challenges, from a technical point of view, that you uh, have seen or are seeing when we are executing these kind of solar plus storage integrated projects?
Thank you, Varun. See, coming from the solar industry background, so I've briefly had some experience in energy storage too. Conceptually, all our energy generating resources, renewable energy generating resources, may it be solar, may it be wind, may it be thermal, either the supply is intermittent or the demand side of it is intermittent. So as very well categorized by Mr. Verma before, there is need based, and then there is green vision based requirement. So need based requirement is obviously, I mean, one of the factors which drive need based is energy independence in various countries, because the countries which are not producing the fossil fuel to generate electricity, they are dependent on other countries. They buy it, and for them it's an expensive resource. For the countries who are not buying it, it's viable still to produce energy on fossil fuel. So for the countries who are buying it, and they are finding it difficult due to various factors to continue with that perspective, they want to have energy independence. For energy independence to be adopted, they need to have, they need to find out what is the other sources they can generate energy. Like Middle East, they are high on solar radiance. They can do, they were the first one to take this step in the Middle East. UAE was the first country to go completely on solar and announce solar projects, because they realize that this is a natural resource which is with them, which they can harness and generate energy. Although they are oil producers too, but yeah, to a limited extent, they cannot serve the full country's requirement. Now, the challenge is, there they found out is that fine, we can generate energy, but then we are not able to have the full output of the resource we have invested in, because of its intermittent nature. So what could be other factors? Or another factor they found out was that as soon as the net metering was introduced, the grids are not built in a way that you can feed back energy into the grid, where the frequency stabilization factor comes in. And another challenge was peak shaving. I mean, when the peak is high, when your peak demand comes in, your solar is not available, probably, or the solar is available, it's generating surplus energy, but your demand is not high. So supply demand imbalance was also there. So these were the challenges. Solar, anyways, they've got integrated. Half of the world is getting solar integrated now. But the thing is to find out uh, a solution to cater to this intermittency, and energy storage definitely is one of the factors, one of the I think it's a prime factor, because they cannot, renewable energy has to be complemented by energy storage. Why it has not been implemented so far on grand scale in the Middle Eastern region is probably the costing factor and the awareness. So from DRE platform today, what we are trying to do, probably in my opinion, is that we are trying to create awareness that solar, your renewable energy storage, your renewable energy concept is not fulfilled until and unless you integrate the storage into it. In fact, I was having a seating with Mr. Manoj a few days back. Let me share that here. So he said there is a trend now where people are slowly realizing that net zero is not possible without integrating solar. Net zero building concept is not possible without integrating solar, and integrating solar to the extent that the envelope of the building also starts generating energy. Now, if they, slowly and gradually people are realizing that how to go move towards the net zero objective. And I think obviously if the envelope of the building is, it starts generating energy, it's a lot of integration. Maybe at one point of time you are generating a lot of energy, maybe you're not given permission to feed back to the grid. Maybe you need to have your own energy storage device. So there has to be, we have to talk more about this. There have to be regulatory authorities involved. We have to work on the practices and policies to be driven, so that I think that's the way forward. We have to adopt energy storage as one of the components in the renewable energy space.
Excellent. So I think I'll just go back to Mayank. Mayank, you are the I'll say the go-to technical expert on the panel today. So, as per you, what are the engineering challenges, which are arising when we are designing, solar plus storage projects, uh, and on both scales? I mean, on the large scale, what are some of the challenges which are native to maybe the geography of the Middle East and the kind of project which are coming up there, which is more of dry area based projects? And maybe the technical challenges or your experiences which when you've designed solar plus storage for meeting the energy consumer needs, the energy needs of the consumers, whether it's corporates or industries. Could you just touch base on some of the engineering and technical challenges here?
Sure, I'll try my best. Although I'm not the perfect guy from a technical expertise, but yes, I can give a best attempt from this side. So yeah, today it's a mix of technical and non-technical both. Uh, from our perspective of as a supplier, we do see the challenges starting right from different type of standards being followed by different developers, and developers are also forced to follow certain standards because the lenders are asking for them to implement them. Probably lenders are coming up with these ideas because of the consultants that are there in the market. So the first thing that as a challenge we can address is standardizing the contract forms, conditions in the contract. And a lot of conditions are definitely focusing on the efficiency, life cycle, the cost per kilowatt hour for every element that we are having. So today, lithium ion is the leader, but there is an exploration on technical efficiency for other type of technology like sodium sulfate or lead acid or VRB or flow battery. But not all are at the same level. But everybody is trying to focus which is the best element that can be used in giving the most optimum return efficiency and also a longevity of the storage system. Right now, we are very much limited in implementing the chemical batteries for few hours of backup storage. Uh, the conditions that are prevailing in Middle East are not allowing for having more than 2 to 4 hours of backup storage, and depending on requirement of each developer. But the charging cycles require more time in today's battery elements. Probably that is one of the technical challenge that the region maybe by implementing a larger scale projects. And definitely this region is one of the only ones which can implement that scale of projects. So that's one technical challenge which is being faced by not just one supplier, in fact the whole industry. How can the charging cycles be improved to have a better capacity stored, and so that the backup power can be much longer than what we have today. uh, we are also looking at not just the front side, but at the back side, that the disposal of the elements, not from now, but from 15 years from now, when we are supposed to replace based on the augmentation of battery requirements, how will the disposal take place, and what is the recycling possibilities of these existing batteries containers. So that will again need to be looked at right now. Of course, it is focusing also on the climate change, COP summit agreements, Paris climate agreements. So everybody is not just supposed to look at the front cost or the front technology benefits, but also 10 years from down the line, what are the implications of having these elements in the system, whether the new system will completely obsolete the existing batteries, and new systems like hydrogen or any other new technology which will just replace the whole system, and these systems will no longer be actively required for meeting the peak demands. Another technical challenge that we face, not just from energy storage, but also from from the other industry partners, is the climatic conditions. Although we have a good amount of solar radiations in this region, we are also facing a lot of fluctuations in demand between the grids. And today, Middle East doesn't have a very strong grid between the GCC or Middle East and Africa countries, which is again a condition that needs to be fulfilled by the storage systems by providing grid forming or grid stabilization requirement, or even supporting the synthetic inertia of the system. So that's a challenge which ESS system needs to come out with. And yes, of course, we are being pushed for increasing the density of the battery elements, and that's why we see a lot of OEMs coming up with larger and larger size of capacity in the same 20 feet container. So creating a compactness at the same time, keeping cost in mind and still maintaining the demands which are just evolving over a period of last 10 years. And still we don't see that that's the matured technology. It's still evolving towards the next level. So we don't know what we see in the future, but today we know that we just focus on best cost per kilowatt hour with reduced climate impact, and still meeting lenders and developers demands in the best way possible.
Now that you've touched upon the the financial aspect of and bring how do we really see it from the point of view of a lender, Manoj, what are some of your experiences? How bankable are these energy storage applications, uh, 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 contracts, or whether the project itself, how bankable are they? What is the view that financiers have when financing such projects? And also, what is the viability, the financial viability of RE plus storage kind of projects uh, which are being implemented today? What
Yeah.
have been your experience in those?
Yeah, as I said before, I think the financial viability is very context sensitive. The application of the energy storage actually determines the need and the benefit that energy storage brings to that particular investment opportunity or that particular application. So in the utility scale projects, they're largely being used for frequency stabilization, for maximizing the utilization of the generated energy, for benefiting from the price arbitrage, which occurs across markets, especially when energy is being traded. So you could store when the prices are low and sell it back when the prices are high. The advent of digitalization and technologies to manage this allows us to predict the patterns in terms of when energy demand would peak, so that you could decide how much of storage can be used, when to release the stored energy. So all of this is leading to a lot of evolving financial models in terms of engaging between the producer, the investor, and the consumer. In the commercial and industrial space, I think the needs are driven largely by the need for going into locations outside the grid, or improving the stability of the grid from which they are operating. So a lot of different applications are guiding the bankability of these projects. Largely what we see is the customers for energy storage go from government and utility companies, industrial units, the energy developers. A lot of renewable energy developers have a need to make sure that the energy that they generate is actually being sold at the right pricing in markets where there is no time of day pricing, or varying prices for peak usage, etc. The real estate and infrastructure developers are also very keen on participating in this space, because they also see the benefit. And of course, the one that is most talked about is the transportation and the mobility sector. So the bankability of energy storage in the transportation and mobility sector, be it for vehicles, be it for chargers, superchargers, etc., they all have different context. From a technology perspective, people often, from a bankability point of view, they look at the durability of the solutions, the energy density, the capacity limitations for long-term storage, the life cycle degradation, etc. And also in our region, there is a lot of focus on the thermal and environmental management of these battery solutions. When all of these are areas that are steadily improving, and to that extent, I think the bankability of energy storage is getting better. You're seeing large utility scale projects which have funding from mainstream funding agencies and banks, which is actually giving more confidence to the wider range of investors who would happily come in for energy storage solutions, for financing energy storage solutions. The transportation sector, I think, is a leader in this space. They are, I think, one of the big drivers behind the development of battery storage technologies as well as hydrogen and fuel cells, because they see their future linked to this. The big oil companies also are transforming into energy companies, and that also drives the future towards hydrogen and other forms of renewable energy. You also start to see the development of virtual power plants, which is necessary in many of the larger metro cities, where yes, you have a lot of capacity on the grid, generation capacity on the grid, but that generation may be slightly away from where the consumption is happening. So there's a new emergence of behind the meter energy storage market, which is about taking energy instead of depending on the grid. You're actually taking energy from places where it's available at times that is available, to locations where you have huge concentration of energy requirements, and at times when the grid is actually overloaded. So a lot of new different applications are coming up, and they all have different, I would say, financing interest. Different type of investors invest in these different projects. I think the bankability space is fast evolving as more and more contracts are getting signed, as the technology is improving, price is dropping, durability, safety, etc., is improving. All of this, I think, is a quite an exciting space in this energy storage and bankability space. To answer your question in simple terms, it's getting more and more bankable as more and more contracts are getting signed, and more types of investors are getting into the mix.
And also, I think with more use cases being, picked up, and as you spoke about the confidence of the finance industry, I think there's a lot of development finance which has already gotten, which has created piloting almost, on all sort of applications. And this, I think, will open further doors, to private finance and the other banks also, to be very comfortable. Because I remember a couple of years back, solar was, financing was a major challenge when you used to talk about solar, and there were a lot of questions about the long term viability and the durability of projects. I think today it's becoming, I think it is the mainstream kind of
Yeah.
financing which is taking place in the energy space.
And if you could just
And
add.
also, I think you touched about a very interesting point of mobility. So with all these vehicles with their battery packs moving around, that is becoming so vehicle to grid, and is also now seen as a important component of the energy infrastructure, and the need for making the grids more sustainable and more smart, to have this quick to and fro at various points. So it's no longer just, there's no longer a singular input point into the grid. There are multiple input points, there are multiple takeout points. The same, points where you're inputting are also becoming, the drawing points from the grid. So how, today's grid infrastructure is supporting, or what major changes do you think the grid infrastructure needs for becoming ready for the energy storage applications that are coming up? Any thoughts
Um,
there?
Yeah, if I could just add an additional point, I think back on the bankability discussion, a lot of financing and bankability studies and decisions are based on data. Now, when an industry is new, you will find that there's a lot of projections and the theoretical models on how it performs. I think the energy storage market has been around, the batteries have been around for enough time now to have a wealth of data from various locations as to its durability, as to its performance, its sort of degradation over the life cycle, etc. So all of this data that is available today from operating plans also help to spur the sort of the improvement or the ease of decision making, because the data is available, rather than you don't have to speculate based on just theoretical projections. So that I think is also aiding the increased interest and the sort of reduced risk perception of investing in energy storage. Just touching on your question about the grid, I think the energy storage is there to maybe support the grid in many ways, because the power mix is changing. We are having a lot of decarbonization. We are introducing a lot of renewable energy generators to the power mix. The grid is not meant to handle all of this, the conventional grid. So they all have to go through massive upgrades. And if you look at the quantum of investment needed to upgrade the grids, it is going to be much more than what is required to even for the renewable energy generation. So and that is something which is a little bit more tougher for private investors or smaller investors to invest into upgrading the grid. So the energy storage, I think, is a good solution to delay the upgrade of the grid or to get the maximum benefit out of the existing grid. It gives you the ability to extract the max value out of the current grid and also prevent grid outages because of the various mix of energy which is flowing through it, which all have different electrical characteristics and usage characteristics. So I feel the energy storage is allowing the grids all around the world to extend their life, and also to sort of wait for newer and newer smart grids and grid technologies to come in and help in the managing the changing mix of energy within the grid.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that it supports the grid, but as it's coming out, no, very soon it may even start to challenge the current grid infrastructure. Massive investments are definitely going to open up to cater to this demand. Mr. Verma, also brought in some points about energy as a service. Now, I think in today's and the energy security needs of not only the nation, but now I think a lot of corporates are looking to see it as an opportunity to control their own energy requirements. And I think storage development has been a major contributor to their confidence. I think what has been your experience in how the businesses are leveraging energy as a service and the smart energy management fields to improve their own sustainability targets?
So I think, yeah, the first very important point. So far, you have touched the viability, bankability, grid. We spoke also about residential sector getting into commercial utility scale and this thing. So see, energy storage as a service. So energy as a service is for sure, but since the subject is on energy storage. Energy storage as a service is actually taking care of all these aspects. So it is going to complement the grid stability. It is going in one or the another way. It is going to support the bankability of entire projects. It is going to make the things much more viable. So when we talk about energy as a service, is actually in a simple terms that energy is made available to the consumer as a service and not as a product. So just imagine if we are talking about a cluster of houses, which is now normally a trend in the Middle East or in other parts, some 50 villas, 60 villas. So we also talk about energy independence and things like that. So the one setup created somewhere, instead of having your own solar plant, or instead of having your own, each house is having your own energy storage systems, putting up money on that as an investment. And instead of doing all those things, that it can be at a community based, it can be at an industrial based, it can be at some a remote location wherever the wheelings is allowed, or wherever, like in India, some of the Some of the attendees are from India also. So these things are actually, common. You produce it somewhere else and then take it somewhere else. So going forward, I think, when the energy is made available as a service to the consumer, whether he is an industry or it's a commercial building or it's a house, we are making the renewable energy reach to a much larger audience and to the much larger people. And once it's not only from this aspect, you talk about from an investment point of view also. Instead of having a 10 smaller projects, it can be a one larger and then providing the energy to the 10 smaller people. So from the financial aspects also, it is much more viable. Energy, operational plant operations, maintenance, from those aspects also, it is a better solution. Some places where we don't have a power at all, like in Africa, it is actually not from now the microgrids and the smaller, now the smart grids are, we are also actually coming. These concepts are quite old. There it is, there you have a pay by meter. So it is produced, the meter is there, you pay for the day and you take that much of power. So this is also as so this is actually energy as a service, is to make the reach to the lowest possible consumer, to the mid consumer, or to the average consumer. So I think it might take a little time to mature, from a say from a region to region or from a country to country. But I think going forward, this is how it is going to be.
Wasim, I'll just talk, maybe, have some inputs from you on what is happening on the solar plus storage on the large scale side of applications. So first, do you think that Mr. Verma said about the operation and maintenance of these projects? Uh, is that going to, first of all, is solar plus storage going to become something of a mainstay? Do you predict that to happen? That it's going to now become more of the tenders are going to come in this kind of format. And second, how is this going to impact the uh, uh, quality of assets which are being developed and the life cycle management of these the solar plus storage assets?
Good. Thank you, Varun, for bringing me again. So yeah, the one of the aspects we have seen in solar plus storage big contracts is that the product life cycle of the two products doesn't match, doesn't complement each other, and that's what scares away the investor, because there's a recurring cost on the energy storage within the lifetime of the solar panels. So we give 30 years, 25 years of lifetime of solar panels, where energy storage at max, the best, most of the industry you deploy, you can warranty 10 years, not beyond that, because it all depends on the type of consumption, the type of usage you are doing. One factor we have seen on the contracts, which is a challenge, is when it comes to the warranty. And most of big investors or end users, they would ask you to have a better warranty because that would make a better viability for them to integrate a storage in there. As So that's what we have seen. Another challenge we have seen is I'm sorry. Another challenge we have seen is that slowly and gradually we are moving towards microgrid concepts, and implementation of microgrid then brings in the challenge of space. So energy storage in a containerized solution would probably find the solution for microgrids to be implemented. But then how do you place solar panels on the top of these containerized solutions or beside these containerized solutions? And what is the space ratio between the two? Because they don't complement each other at all. You require a lot more solar panels to have a 40-foot lithium ion storage fully charged and discharged, fully charged basically. It requires a in the given amount of time if you are trying to meet a charge rate or just given charge rate. So these are technical sort of challenges which are still keeping things away, which are pushing the product to evolve. So lithium ion is now moving into solid state. There are other technologies which are coming into storage business. I mean, we can talk of sodium batteries, sodium sulfur batteries, which are better, which can have better charge and discharge rates. We can talk of supercapacitors, which have the best discharge rate possible when it comes to the applications, sort of application, because power density is also one challenge in energy storage, which mobility segment is also facing. You have energy density, you are working on energy density, but then what about the power density? Because at one given point of time, the machine requires a lot of torque, and your lithium ion batteries or the current available technologies are not able to meet it. So there is a lot going on there. Coming back to your question, these are the challenges which we face when it comes to big contracts. Mainly, I think if we are able to complement or cover up on the product life cycle, somehow we are able to marry the two. There is no doubt that solar and energy storage are the solution for the future, basically. As Mr. Verma said, in Africa, these are projects where you have solar panels installed, you have got energy storage wall products, which are bought and served to the residential users by the developer, and they put a meter and they charge them with the amount of energy they draw from the energy storage. So, energy as a service is a viable project in a part of the world. But in other part of the world, the dynamics vary, the availability of power vary, their demand and or their requirements or their needs are different than that region. So here, on grid scale, eventually there are a lot many reasons to confirm that yes, solar and energy storage make a perfect sense to be deployed and implemented. But yes, there are few challenges, I think, mostly on the commercial part of it, which have to be handled and dealt with so that it can be taken up further. But future lies there only. I mean, we have to move into that domain. We might need to move into microgrids, mini grids solution, as Manoj Saab also said earlier, that your grids um, are not built in a fashion that they can take all the power which you are generating on the outskirts back to the grid. So eventually, we have to move out, and to restructure the grid, the cost is too high. Instead of that, if we can have movable grids, which could be mini or micro grids, portable sort of grids. All these concepts are there. I mean, the world is working on this, and we from this platform are also want to talk about it so that we can evolve further and contribute. I hope that answers.
Yeah, I think it does. And maybe Mayank,
Thank you.
you could also give your point of view on an important point raised by Wasim, that is to do with the warranties of the in the entire life cycle of these two product lines, and what are some major conflicts that arise when you try to put in together contracts or
Yes, I lost the voice of Varun.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Or maybe
yeah,
I can
Mayank.
continue by the time he joins in.
Okay, is he not here?
You're back again, Varun. You're back again. We can hear
Okay,
Yeah,
you.
we missed
I was
your
asking.
last session, last
So I was
part
asking
of the.
Mayank, if you could build on the points which Wasim raised about the challenges in integration, especially the life cycle management, where the warranties and these challenges are not or currently at sync between the storage industry and the solar industry. So
Yes.
Mayank, what would be your points
So that's a
or
very
your thoughts on that?
vital question. I mean, thanks
Mm.
for raising that point, and that's really a vital question that is being raised in the market, and there is a demand from the developers to increase the warranties for the storage products. We do see a huge discrepancy between the modules and the storage elements. Unfortunately, as of today, the limitation is posed because of the battery elements having a high degradation, and then there is also a limitation on the DoD and state of charge uh, and discharge. We are still, of course, evolving as a technology from the whole economy system, of course, led by suppliers from China, India, Even some of them are catching up from US and Japan. But as of today, there is still a big question being raised on the degradation part, and the life cycle of a battery is still pretty low compared to modules. And of course, there are obvious reasons that we have to maintain the thermal efficiency of the system. We have to maintain the cooling of the battery. We also need to maintain the reliability, ensure that the fire safety precautions are all taken care of, whereas the modules are not directly exposed to all these requirements as a complete package system. They are individual, and the replacement is much convenient compared to the whole battery system. Yes, what has been evolving in this is the replacement from the methodology of stacking, and the new systems that are coming up are more in having the incorporation of or more incorporating the stack systems or stack wise battery packages or racks. So this actually is helping to improve the efficiency of the system and the warranty part of the system itself, not a particular pack or not a particular battery element itself. So the industry is trying to catch up on the storage. It's not there yet, and that's why I think the costs are also being driven because of these warranties, which are higher for storage systems compared to a standalone PV systems. So yes, industry as a whole needs to do a lot. Thankfully, I come from a company which emphasizes a lot on R&D. So definitely every supplier has to focus a lot on the R&D to come out with the best solution, and probably the whole industry can benefit from those kind of support system in the economy, from the ancillary units or from the back-end supplies or even from the battery manufacturers. So this integration between the panel systems and the storage systems is existing, and definitely without doubt. Are we trying to do something about it? Definitely, that's also happening. The cost matching, not at all. They are much higher in storage systems. Can we try to do something better off? Maybe by bringing out some new innovative technology, which is focusing not just only on the one particular technology, maybe a mix of that in the storage system itself. That might give a more confidence to the off-takers and the agreements drafted by the developers and the lenders in terms of having a sync in the warranty terms. On the operation and maintenance side, definitely the companies are much better placed than before, and handling the emergency responses or any issues with the short circuit, or if battery deficiency or battery failure. I think that way is this condition is being taken care of. But of course, again, we come back to the same drawing board that the cost comes into play.
Excellent. So I think we've been able to cover a lot of width in the discussion. Maybe I'll just pick up one or two questions which have come in, and before I move on to the closing remarks. So one question is while going net zero. So there's already, when we talk about net zero and how an industrial consumer can achieve that, there are a lot of caps, there are net metering regulations, there are uh, well, not a lot of the policies are very open ended for full deployment of solar plus storage. So first of all, do we do you think there's a need of any um, or major areas when it comes to regulations which need to evolve for a large scale deployment of energy storage? I'll just throw it open to the entire to all the panelists. Anybody wants to add a couple of pointers in terms of the regulations for energy storage?
I can just contribute something from what's happening in, let's say, a place like Saudi Arabia. You could see a lot of the new smart cities that are coming up, like Neom, for example, has a huge focus on ensuring that the entire grid is run on renewable energy, and that then calls into focus a massive amount of storage to be built in. So hydrogen, I think Neom will become one of the biggest hydrogen run grids in the world when it as it develops. So you can see massive investments going into hydrogen, and the regulatory environment for the smart cities, which are envisaging the grid to be run primarily on renewable energy, as opposed to the older grids which are run with a combination of the fossil fuel and renewable energy. You see the laws and regulatory mechanisms improving towards that. And as countries move towards their net zero visions by 2050, 2030, there are different aspects that have been committed. You will see that the regulatory environment will change to accommodate more of the storage time of to also the different business models which would improve the penetration of storage, like time of day pricing, the public-private participation in grid stability, because the fact that you could be implementing storage and thereby reducing the grid instabilities in your region will also drive these public-private partnerships in grid stabilization, etc. So I think the regulatory environment again is changing at different paces based on the use cases, and smart cities I think will be the lead on regulatory change for energy storage.
Maybe I can
Any,
support with some.
yeah, yeah.
So from my perspective, what I feel is that especially focusing on Middle East and Africa market, and maybe talking with the forum is more on the Middle East market. Today, the regulatory environment is quite focused on solely looking at the LCOE model and the agreements which are being made across the whole ecological system is not reaping the full benefits of the ESS systems if we are focusing only from the lowest technically compliant bid, or maybe the economically lowest bid. Uh, ESS offers a lot of benefits, as Mr. Manoj, Wasim, and Mr. Verma were mentioning, that it is also can be used as a service. If it is deregulated, it can also work as a remuneration setup for a lot of producers. And today it is based on the simple concept that at peak power, when you buy a power or any utility buys a power, they are paying higher charges compared to normal rates. And ESS is complementing that requirement. But if the regulatory requirements focuses more on value monetization, uh, making a business case for ESS systems will be more viable. And if the PPAs and the off-taker or even the government bodies and utilities start taking into consideration beyond just the lowest bid and more focus on fixed and variable cost combined with the technical competency, the future viability and the longevity of storage system, I think that will make a more better sense in both economical and non-tangible value in the whole system. So Middle East, Africa, even the Central Asia and other developing or emerging countries or the markets, they really need to focus on this aspect as well while we are talking about technological advancements and implementing the new systems in place. So that should also be a topic of discussion maybe going forward in a lot of forums.
Varun,
Excellent.
just a loud
Yeah,
thought
yeah.
here. Making on the point. In fact, I think, in my opinion, storage is considered as a threat as of now by the utilities. Um, I mean, as you rightly said, there has to be regulation done, and I think there are various avenues where they can utilize storage as a source of revenue. So the threat for them is that they might cut down on their revenue once the independent users become independent on their energy consumption. But you can always limit that independency of them. You can always put regulations in with regards to the type of storage to be installed, the maintenance part of it to be done. You can always certify engineers who would do the maintenance for it. So you can always dictate or write as they always do. I mean, in Middle East, the regulatory authorities always specify what is required to be done in a specialized field. So considering it as a special product, as a specialized product, I think if they take it that way, this could also be a revenue generating source for them. And probably from DRE platform, I don't know, I mean, we can always propagate this message that it has to be taken positively. Only then we can progress in a positive domain, in a positive dimension.
Yeah, I think
Just
even when solar started, it was
Varun,
Mama, just yeah,
just
please go
a
ahead.
small point here. I think it's very important to understand, and we should start speaking this. Actually, there is no competition at all between the existing grids and the future grids or the new markets or the storage or renewable sector. See, it can be understood in a very simple way, because the demand of energy is increasing year on year. This demand has to be provided from various sources. So all the key drivers are in place. It is only the competition is to that extent that there is somewhere some fine tuning or some corrections or some modifications are required. So otherwise, there is no competition at all. I think it's if we dive little deep, and we will understand that both are complementing to each other.
Mm. Yeah, I think there's
Well
this
said, Varun.
discussion about competitive nature also used to happen in the initial years of solar, and how it was a threat to the existing industry. And now I think it's become so prevalent and so widespread that it's not seen as a threat. I mean, it's seen as a part of the ecosystem, and I'm
Yeah,
very sure that very soon this will
actually,
be
storage is
with
going to do a balancing act.
exactly. Great.
Yeah.
So I think we've taken it's been more than our already, and there's still I think there's so much on a plate to discuss. But we may not be able to take up everything today. So with that, I would just like to thank the panelists, and once again to the entire audience which is there, which has stayed with us for the hour and a half. Thanks for joining in. And I think some really valuable insights about what's happening in the Middle East from all our panelists. Uh, uh, and with all the whatever we could not discuss, I'm sure DREBG will be conducting a lot more activities, a lot more such thought-provoking, roundtables with experts from the sector to bring on board the readiness and the awareness which the sector needs. So with that, I think any closing remarks from all our panelists, maybe in one or two lines, we could do that, and then we would just hand it over back to Ella to conclude the webinar.
I would start up maybe then. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I mean, it was amazing to be a part of this roundtable, and I'm happy that I'm a part of DRE. I could see one question from coming in from Tirupati, which is regarding utilization of hydrogen fuel cells, H2 cells. Very interesting question. Maybe I think next of our webinar could be on that subject, touching on that subject. And once again, thank you very much, Varun. Thank you, everyone on the panel. It was a delight to be on the panel with you. Thank you.
I think very quickly, I'll just say 2 points which I missed it out in my initial talks. We would like to invite all the attendees to be a part of DREBG. DREBG is basically Dubai Renewable Energy Business Group, uh, um, uh, 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 and currently I chair that group. This is a bridging activity between the private and the government, which is a neutral platform where ideas, discussions, knowledge, expertise are shared with the industry, with a simple objective to increase the speed of renewable energy in the region. Thanks to Farun and the Solar Quarter, who are supportive in conducting these sessions to us. And I think you will see every month almost, or once in 1.5 months or 2 months, similar sessions on on a various actually subjects. So be connected, and let's spread the renewable energy as much as possible in the region. Thank you.
I just want to add a couple of points. First of all, thank you to DRE Business Group as well as Solar Quarter for conducting this very timely and wonderful event. And a big thank you to our audience for listening to our views and predictions of how the market would evolve. All I would say is it's very exciting times for the energy storage market, both from a technology as well as from a business and investment perspective. And so that's I think it's a very timely and a fantastic time to be in the energy storage market.
And let me hear the last word. So yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity, and this comes by being part of DREBG, which I started this year. So it really is helping me as a professional to grow, connect with a lot of people, and understand a lot of point of views, listen to them, and understand the whole market how it is evolving. So definitely, it's the right time to be in the right business segment, and especially in the right market, which is Middle East.
Great. So, final word, I think follow us, the DREBG, on social media as well. We have a very active LinkedIn page. You can follow Solar Quarter on LinkedIn as well to stay updated, with all the future activities. And with that, Ella, I think I'll hand it over to you uh, to end today's session. Thank you all.
Sir. Thank you to all our esteemed panelists for today and for sharing your insightful knowledge and expertise with our audience. It's given our audience a lot to think about and a lot to take away from this webinar. I would also like to extend a very special thanks to Mr. Varun for superbly managing the session. A big shout out to all our attendees for extending their valuable time, and a special thanks to the Dubai Renewable Energy Business Group for their immense support to organize this event. We promise you to come back soon with more exciting sessions. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.